Greetings fellow kids. This hectic pipsqueak behind me is the Mazda 2, and in this fully sick YouTube video I'm going to lay down for you and your fine ass what makes it a baller first car for learner and probationary drivers. Not just for you and your fine ass, but also for your scrubs. I'm going to lay it down for you next. Stick around.
Things to do. Alright. Oh.
Don't twist the belt.
Continuity error!
Insert child.
Got to change an nappy or whatever it may be. That's handy. I genuinely didn't think that was going to happen with space for family.
What day is it?
The actual process of learning to drive can be quite daunting for many 16-year-olds, especially if they've never been into cars. I know this is the case because 1, I'm not completely ignorant. 2, I used to be one myself, a 16-year-old. And of course, thirdly, I've been learning to drive myself lately as well. Well, should I say ride.
There's a building behind me there that says Ego on it, and it's ironic and highly appropriate because initially it's easy to think, well yeah, riding a motorcycle is just because you've got a big ego, and I guess that's partly true, but in reality it's kind of the opposite actually, because you can't have an ego riding this thing. You've got to. I found myself in that last session just frustrated. I wasn't in the right mindset. I'd rushed back from lunch and I wasn't getting it. I wasn't clicking with the exercise that I needed to do, and I kept saying to myself, I can't do this, and I was swearing and getting pissed off and wrong mindset. But that's ego. I had to put that aside in order to complete the job and get it done, and I'm pleased to say I managed to do it and finish what I needed to do, and I did it. I put my ego aside, and that's actually kind of the reality of riding a motorcycle, I've come to realise. And I think the hot roads would be a whole lot safer if we could all just, you know, temper our expectations, calm the fuck down, put your ego aside and just consider the other person. Like this van, for example, doing a whole bunch of clicks faster than the speed limit. It really is about adjusting your ego, and I don't think I could have done that if I was in my 20s. My ego was massive. So, kind of proud of myself actually. So that was interesting. Now, I must confess I have done a little pre-learner introductory course and basically getting the control and all the slow speed stuff, so I can go into this completely virgin. And I tell you what, I'm glad I did. The tell you what, the concentration levels are high and the satisfaction level is the same. It's like relearning how to ride a bike. Pump some food though. What I noticed, especially in that, was the complete lack of vision you get with mirrors. Okay, so passed the competency test, and that's pretty exciting. Yeah, Now it's just got to do the on-road ride section, which apparently is hard to fail, so that'll be good. And permit is mine, baby. Yeah, feels good. Feels good. Okay, so I've just walked into Harley Heaven in West Melbourne, and I'm going to try on some helmets. There's only one helmet that I could possibly imagine myself getting, obviously for safety, but also because it's... Yes.
I'm giving you this backstory because I know that as a 16-year-old, you've probably never been in control of this big, heavy, fast mechanisation of chaos and destruction. But if you're a young person watching this, I want to say to you, that's an okay view to have. That's fine. In fact, it's probably good that you have that view because you respect this thing, right? You acknowledge that it's expensive. You acknowledge that it can hurt people or yourself. You recognise the importance of trying to control it. You respect it. That's a good thing to have. In addition to acknowledging, you know, the potential dangers and the expenses and all the negative aspects of owning a car, it's also okay to acknowledge that they're fun. They're actually really good fun. And learning to control one is a huge accomplishment. This is why I think your parents, and parents if you're watching, this is why I think you should reconsider giving your kids the family transport heirloom, which is generally a tired old shitbox. Very few safety aids, tired engine, you know, worn parts. Basically, you're giving your generation's risk factor to the next generation. And there are always going to be people who will say, oh, kids need to be exposed to a little bit of risk, you know, otherwise how do they learn? Well, that's all well and good, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're right. Cars have become progressively safer for a reason, because cars used to be very dangerous. They used to be under-equipped, underpowered, unreliable, and I think you need to reconsider and think about something like a Mazda 2, because it's none of those things. I mean, if you think about it, you've put in all this time and effort and money, you've been up at all hours of the night, you've lost countless hours sleep, you've grown lines in your face, you've gotten fatter, you've put in all this work, all this effort to get your kids to where they are, and you want to put them in your old shitbox? You want to put them in the vehicle that is most likely to be the weakest link in their learning process of how to drive? I don't know, it seems like a waste to me. I want you to think about the Mazda 2 as a good learner probationary car, because it has none of the drawbacks of the old cars. It has all the benefits of modern cars, but it has a frugal engine. It has a low curb weight, so it's easy to maneuver around the city. It's reliable as hell because it's a Mazda, but what's even more special about the Mazda 2 can be found on the inside. Let's check it out, shall we?
Okay, So here we are inside the Mazda 2, and you can see the interior is pretty swish. You've got a nice textured dash feature here. The vents are round and circular, and they look a bit like turbofan engines, a little bit Mercedes-esque. It's pretty swanky in here. I mean, for a $26,000 car. You know, pretend carbon fiber, and you know, the steering wheel's nice and small and sporty, and everything's where it should be. There's not a clutter of buttons overwhelming your attention, and overall it's a pretty functional interior. Now this screen system here is what I wanted to show you. It is a very clever system, and it goes against the trend in, you know, modern cars about shoving big distracting touch screens in your face and just tempting your kids to just pay more attention to it and what's going on compared to the environment around them and the vehicle. So basically you use this little rotary dial down here to select your various functions. The thing is, people have been a little bit critical of this system in the past, but actually what it means is, as you're driving along, you figure out what you want to use, what thing you're looking for, and once you figure out how to do that, you can select Google Maps, you can select YouTube Music, whatever you need. But also, it doesn't mean that you're focusing your eyes on where your finger is supposed to be located. That's the problem with touch screens, right? It requires your brain to figure out what you're trying to touch, and based on the movement of the vehicle, you've then got to geolocate your finger, and that takes cognitive bandwidth, right? Whereas if you are just pushing a button, right, you can check what thing you're looking for, you can target it, select it very easily. Like you don't actually have to go and try and figure out where it is on the screen. You can just locate it, and when you get a spare second, you just rotate it as you need it, and then you push down to enter. And it's, once you figure it out, and kids can figure this stuff out, right? They're clever. They know smartphones. They can figure out technology. It's actually quite simple, but it's without the distraction factor. And I quite like it. I'm a big fan of it, and I praise Mazda for doing this system and sticking to it. So let's now talk about the main reason we're here. The hallowed manual transmission.
Lights on, I'm on, lights on.
It is very hard to find a good manual transmission in a well-equipped car these days. If you do get a manual, it's probably in a sports car, like a hot hatch, and which is way too expensive and just more vehicle and more power and potency than you probably are willing to acknowledge is a good idea. To your young people, manual transmission is not intimidating. It's not scary. All it is just a, you're just matching the gear based on the speed around you and what you're doing, right? It's just as simple as pulling the paddle shifts as you might get in mum and dad's SUV. And I'm going to give you a quick demonstration. I want you to think about the hokey pokey dance, right? You put your left foot in, you select your gear, you take your left foot out, and you steer it all about, right? Same process. You put your left foot in, you select your gear, you take your left foot out, and you steer it all about. Very simple. Now, once you get used to that system, and you will need to find a small car park and just play with the gears. This action with your left foot, right? You want to automate that, right? That's all an automatic gearbox is. It's just a little push with your left foot. You can push with your left foot, can't you? You just, if you're accelerating, you're going forward, you're taking off from the lights. First gear, change gear, left foot in, select your gear, third gear, take your left foot out, and you steer it all about. Simple. When you're slowing down, you put your left foot in, you change down gear, you take your left foot out, and you steer it all about.
Very simple. All right. It's not scary. What is scary for most people is little kangaroo hopping and that sort of thing. But as you practice, just like we practice safe sex, we practice our times tables, we practice footy, you practice Call of Duty. Kids still play Call of Duty. You know, you get better. And this is the perfect age to be doing it. Then you come to things like parking, and in reverse, it's basically just first gear, but you're going backwards, right? And you're just using your clutch to just manage the power, a little bit of acceleration, and it will move. What's been a real learning curve for me has been trying to do that with a motorcycle, because I've had in my brain this action, this process that I have automated over my driving career. It took readjusting, it took recalibrating, and you know, doing it with my left hand felt very unnatural, but the action I built in with my leg to change gear based on the sound of the vehicle and the speed I'm doing, it becomes intuitive and you just feel it. I had that baked in from learning a manual. So, you know, as you get older, you might want to ride a motorcycle. You might find yourself working in a job that has a manual transmission van, for example, or want to become a mechanic, or you might start studying engineering. You might simply enjoy maybe four-wheel driving or some kind of off-roading. It doesn't need to be a scary thing. In fact, let's go for a little drive and see what we can do. So basically we always start with our foot on the clutch, just in case there's a gear stuck somewhere, whatever. We're in reverse. I'm going to put my seatbelt on. What's great about a small car like this is, oh, better take that down. What's great about a small car like this is you fit into all the car park spaces. Left foot on. So I'm going to just gently release my foot off the clutch. I'm in first gear, just very gently to bring my foot forward, okay? And let's just go back. Reverse. First. Foot on the clutch still. All right, just managing the power. Just, you can feel the what's called the friction point. That's where the power starts to come in, where the clutch bites with the flywheel. Put your left foot in, change your gear, pull your left foot out, and you steer it all about. It's not scary. Right, coming up to roundabout, foot on the brake, clutch in, change down, clutch out, take your foot off the brake, back on the accelerator, put your indicator on. Watch out for the lady crossing the road on her phone who's not paying attention to the direction the traffic is actually coming from. Accelerate, put your left foot in, change your gear, take your left foot out, steer it all about. You put your left foot in, change your gear, take your left foot out, and you steer it all about. Left foot in, change your gear, take your left foot out, and you steer it all about. Put your left foot in, change your gear, pull your left foot out, and you steer it all about. Put your left foot in, change your gear, take your left foot out. Easy on the brakes. What I wanted to say about this car is it really has taken me back to my youth, and not in the hooning, immature, adolescent, stupid way. I mean, it is just so liberating. I've never needed to reach for my phone. I've never got bored with what's going on with the drive in front of me. I'm just focused on the task, and you can be as well. And I think that is something that is missing from driving these days. Everything has become automated, and just like at the supermarket you used to have a conversation with someone, now you barely acknowledge the 16-year-old who's just manning the self-serve checkout. We barely communicate anymore, and I think it's got to change. I think we need to go back a bit, and I know I sound like a dinosaur saying that, but you know, selecting the gears yourself, sure, you chew a little bit more fuel. I mean, if you get really used to a manual gearbox, you can then hack that fuel saving by changing up 2 gears and putting yourself in even lower revs, save a little bit of fuel that way.
But I think the manual gearbox has been shamefully let go in the car industry, like in a wider sense, and taking off from the lights. I'm not being beeped by anybody. I'm not getting distracted by anything. I'm just paying attention to when I need to be ready to change gear. Just like on my motorcycle, you've got to be in that ready position to take off when the lights change, because you've got things to do. You know, you've got to focus on the task and get it done. You put your left foot in, change your gear, take your left foot out, and you steer it all about. Put your left foot in, change gear, take your left foot out, and you steer it all about. Right, what you're looking at here is a typical manoeuvre I've tried many times in my local Aldi car park here. I've done this with the Kona a bunch of times, and I struggle to make this turning circle without having to reverse and then have another go at it. So what I'm going to do is take the little Mazda 2 here, and in one movement, no reversing, I'm going to get all the way around here and out the exit of the car park. And I'm going to prove to you how manoeuvrable this thing really is. You ready? Here we go.
Okay. First in and the last out. Never tried to go the fast route. Marathon, not a race. Put in hours and I cash out. Game time been lit. Been the man, been him. In the box like 9-9. Got pinstripes on my skin. Okay, go mamba all in my zone. When the wind going home. Hear it all in my tone. Worked hard for this throne, you know I'm never lazy. Nothing faze me, see me win, but those L's made me. Hear him talk, let him talk. All the ghosts have been called crazy.
What's great about small cars is you can park with obnoxious levels of confidence. I like that.
True on the man still. Losses got you bent up. All that ain't gon' pent up. See you in my inbox, but everybody can't come. I worked hard for this, put in hours, got scars from this. No sleep, I just toss and turn, thinking about how hard it get. I've been chilling with my family now, you been chilling with the party is. Put in reps cause they called my bluff, got one shot to get all these dubs. And we on. Lights on, I'm on. Lights on, I'm on. Love the pressure, I can't let up. Keep my head up, I can't let up. Lights on, I'm on. Lights on, I'm on. Love the pressure, I can't let up. Keep my head up, I can't let up.
Two small Mazdas. One is about 15 grand cheaper. I want to now talk to you about the actual sort of situational awareness of your kids driving a vehicle like this. Not only is it easy to park, it's cheap to buy, it's cheap to run, but that doesn't mean that they are getting less of a car. Tradition is that mum and dad drive their car for 10-15 years, and then they give the now outdated, flogged out rat box to the kids to learn to drive, and we tell ourselves, oh, it's good for them to learn how to drive, you don't need all that safety gear and blah blah blah. And look, part of that is true, but the bulk of that statement is grossly underestimating how good new cars are. They are comprehensively safer to be crashed or crashed into than older cars. It is just a fact. Let's talk safety quickly. This car is based on a kind of old platform. It's getting on a bit, but in 2015, Euro NCAP, ANCAP, the safety boffins there, they crash tested this thing, and actually it did pretty good in some fairly aggressive crash tests. Now, you got a bunch of airbags, front passenger and front driver obviously, curtain airbags, that's fine. They work pretty good. But also, I want to talk to you about just the overall safety inherent in a smaller car. Now, it is true that if a bigger vehicle hits the same thing at the same speed, under the same conditions as a smaller vehicle, the bigger vehicle will come out on top. That is just a physics fact, right? But there has to be something in the fact that this vehicle weighs just over, like, one person over 1 ton. So this specific model, the base model pure manual Mazda 2, weighs 1,085 kilos. Now that is light. That's really light, like impressive levels of light. In the current day and age of new cars, everything is getting bigger and heavier, and all that does is consume more fuel, and also they don't handle as well, relatively speaking. So in terms of safety and the actual real world conditions you're likely to encounter in a vehicle like this, a lot of the driving you're going to do, or your kids are going to do, is going to be to and from the shops, to and from their mates' places, to and from uni, going out on weekends, you know, picking up their mates on Saturday night, that kind of stuff, right? So it's mostly metro driving. It's probably actually quite rare that they're going to have an accident. The road toll and, you know, all the accidents out there, you're only seeing a tiny window emphasized to the rest of the world, right? 99% of people, including P-platers and learners, do a perfectly fine job of driving every single day, and they don't crash, they don't end up wrapped around power poles. So let's just bring the perception to a bit more of a manageable, realistic level, right? This vehicle, this Mazda 2, goes around corners so much better than any SUV you could possibly want to buy. Now, what I mean by that is, this vehicle, when you're cornering, right, you're yawing, right? The car's going straight and then it wants to yaw, so you're trying to change its direction sideways, right? If you have a carton of eggs, take all the eggs out and you put 4 in the middle, right? That's the Mazda 2. It's a lot easier to spin that and rotate that carton of eggs, right? Because all the eggs, a lot of the weight is focused in the center, right? You could even put another 2 in the front, and that carton of eggs will still rotate quite easily, with a lot less effort than if you put 8 eggs in, right? Or 10. So think of your medium SUV, like your CX-5, your Sportage, your Tucson, your Forester. Think of that as 8 eggs, right? This is like 4 eggs. So you've got more mass. A Sportage has an extra, I don't know, 700 kilos of mass. Depending on some models, CX-5 has another 500, 600, 700 kilos worth of mass. So it takes a lot more effort to make that vehicle move and rotate, okay? So on the odd occasion where you are on Jumping Creek Road and you've got double white lines and your kids are heading to uni or something in the morning and Skippy jumps out in front, it's a lot easier to do that, to go around Skippy if needs be, or perhaps it's a kid jumping out from behind a car or something, going through the suburbs, right? In a school zone even. It's a lot easier to make this car do that than it is in your SUV. If you're in a Mazda 2, which has an 82 kilowatt peak power limit, you can't really make a lot of mistakes in this car. The power to weight ratio in this vehicle is quite good in terms of making it useful as a transport tool. You can put a bunch of stuff in it, the family, and it will take you wherever you need to go. I'm going up and down hilly
hilly suburbs of Park Orchards here, and it's got plenty of guts. I've overtaken trucks, I've been down to Phillip Island on the freeway at 110, overtaken vehicles, plenty of power, right? It's actually got the perfect amount of power. It's just enough to make it useful without it becoming some silly sports car. For the price, it's $26,700 driveway. There is no shortage of actually decent equipment in here. Everything a learner or probationary driver could possibly need. It's got Android Auto and CarPlay, sweet little LCD screen. You know, I haven't had any issues with ergonomics. I've not had to fiddle with any settings or menus or anything to dial the car in the way I want. I haven't been able to change the name of the vehicle to annoy other motoring journalists and Mazda by giving it some smart aleck name, but everything's here. The aircon's great. I mean, it heats up so quickly, this little car, because obviously it's a small space to heat. Great visibility. I like that the door mirrors are actually attached to the door, not in the corner, which impedes your cornering vision through corners. The mirrors themselves are pretty decent. I like that that's a normally ratioed mirror. I'm not a fan of Mazda's thing with a magnified door mirror here. For me, it slightly puts the vision not where I want it to be. As in, I'm looking at things that aren't like when I'm reversing in my driveway. That's not quite where I want to be looking. I have to adjust a little bit, but that's just a bit of a nerdy thing for me. The cruise control works really well. In fact, it's been quite nice not having a digital speedo, because I've been able to just go off the feel of how quickly I'm going, and I can tell when I'm at the correct speed. So the fact that I'm nice and low to the ground and I'm in a fairly moderately narrow vehicle, my sensation of speed is a lot more acute. So right now I'm doing 80 k's an hour, the speed limit, and it feels like 80 k's an hour, right? Okay, so at this point we need to talk about the Mazda 2's main competitors. In fact, the only real competitor is the Toyota Yaris. The Ascent Sport is the base model equivalent, and it costs pretty much the same, but has no LED headlights, and the LED headlights on this are bloody awesome. Like, especially the high beams just lit up the entire South Gippsland Highway on my way down to Phillip Island the other night. I had another car behind me using my headlights. Anyway, halogen headlights in the Toyota. It has a CVT transmission, which is going to be really drony, and sure, it might be sort of 9%-ish more economical, but that's kind of lost to the fact it's got a 40-litre fuel tank, so longer between fill-ups anyway, and peak power is in the Toyota is much higher in the rev, so you've got to rev it higher to get the same amount of performance as this. So that's going to suck a bit more fuel anyway. Performance is going to favour the Mazda because all the torque is available lower in the revs, so you don't have to rev it nearly as hard, even though you're in the manual, and okay, you might want to, you know, rev it a little bit, but what that means is you don't have to thrash this as hard as you do in the Yaris to get the same amount of performance. You're just going to cruise along anyway, and the price of fuel is still relatively affordable. I know everyone beats on about it, but it's actually not that bad. It was the same price as when I was in my youth, when I was a teenager driving my Tirana, and I had like $10 to spend on fuel a week, and I managed to get to and from school, and that was in the country, by the way. In terms of brake mean effective pressure, that's basically just how efficient, how much power each cylinder of the engine gets. It's a number for efficiency. The Yaris is 1% more efficient. So, I mean, that's going to be negligible. But the thing with the Yaris is it is many % uglier. That's not ugly.
is it? It's not ugly. That's a pretty handsome looking car. Like, if it was a girl, I mean, you'd have to you know, up your game, lads, you know. So now, to be fair, the Yaris does have an 8% bigger boot. I think it's like 10 litres or something, 20 litres. What, are you really going to notice? I don't think so. But in order to get that 8% more boot space, you're going to pay $5 more. So there goes the fuel saving. Now, when I said they cost about the same, that's what I meant. I mean, it's within, you know, $5, but $5 to a uni student. Wheels, 15-inch alloys, no more steel wheels with hubcaps. I can't remember if you still get that on the Toyota, maybe. Anyway, reversing camera and rear parking sensors. Hello. You get a cruise control that is really simple to use. Like, you don't even have to turn it on and off. You just punch it, set, and it's on, right? Really good cruise control system that works really nicely and smoothly with the manual gearbox. Yes, thank you, Mazda, for respecting the manual gearbox. Push button ignition and a remote locking. I mean, that's pretty swish even for today. So no turnkey barrel ignition like the olden days. It's proper swanky push button start with a manual. Auto emergency braking with the manual. Like, you don't get that these days. Every other manual gearbox on the market, you don't get the automatic emergency braking system because the computer just can't think about what's going on with the clutch. But this, it's fine. You get lane keeping and blind spot detection. They're okay. But what's great about the lane keeping in this, you turn it off and it stays off. Yes! Oh, thank you. Common sense. DAB plus digital radio, that's pretty good. Android Auto and CarPlay. So the reason you got to think about the stuff that's not Android Auto and CarPlay related is because your kids might travel regionally and they might be in a spot where there's no reception. So, you know, being able to put on the Blender beats, as I've been listening to all week, fantastic. USB charging points. Oh, and the stereo is actually a bit of a banger. Like, I've turned up the bass in this. I've played Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson, bit of Limp Bizkit. Yeah, good stereo. Sorry, when I say when I listen to my music, I was saying Drake, Eminem. Actually, I do listen to Eminem. Kendrick Lamar, the Teskey Brothers. Yeah, Teskey Brothers. You should look up the Teskey Brothers, by the way. Auto rain sensing wipers, electric folding mirrors, and I'll just demonstrate those for you now. Look, on a base model. On a base model. The engine is a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine. It makes 82 kilowatts of power at about 6,000 RPM. That's okay, good fun. The manual gearbox is a 6-speed. You get the stop-start system that I explained, which works with the manual gearbox. 44 litre fuel tank. It runs on 91 RON fuel. Happy days. Servicing is every 15,000 Ks or every 12 months, whichever occurs first. And the warranty is a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty. That's awesome. Now, this little pipsqueak makes 73% of the power of the Serato GT, 59% of the power of the i30N, and 62% of the power in the WRX TS. But on those vehicles, you're going to pay, that's an extra $14,700. On the i30N, you're going to pay an extra $30,000, and on the WRX, you're going to pay $37,000 more. I mean, you're paying tens of thousands of dollars more when this offers half the performance for less than half the price, more or less anyway. What I'm saying is, bang for your buck. And you know, if you run into someone, it's a lot safer for this vehicle to hit me on my upper thigh than it is to be hit with a Ranger in my hip, where I suffer severe lower spinal damage, hit my head straight into the bonnet. It's a lot safer to be, way safer for pedestrians. So if you know, going to and from uni and going in and out of town, twats, you know, on their iPhones just getting clobbered by this thing. Much safer. I think that's about it. So look, I'm Scott Murray from Best Family Cars. I hope this report has helped you at least think twice about what kind of car you're going to get your kids. Please don't get them the old second-hand family heirloom shitbox. Put them in something that's relatively affordable to run and purchase. Put them in something that's safe, and ultimately teach them how to drive a manual, because it's going to be fun. They're going to learn a skill that they will never forget, and it's a vehicle that I think goes completely underappreciated in the car industry, and you should buy one. And I don't usually just outwardly say you should buy one, but this is a really, really good value first car for any learner and probationary drivers. So if you've gotten something out of this report, please give me a like and subscribe or comment, whatever, if you feel that's necessary. And until then, I'll see you around. Keep it real. Think of everything you can buy with $5 grand. Oh, I don't know. Holidays, PlayStations, shoes, clothes, white shoes, premium pre-ripped jeans with your extra $5 grand. Yeah, that's all I got.